This is the kind of content we need more of online. Hey everyone, I'm Abbey Sharp. Welcome to Abby's Kitchen. Today we're going to be reviewing the healthy cooking guidelines that helped food YouTuber Ethan Chlebowski lose 70 pounds. As a foodie myself, I am a huge fan of Ethan's content and recipes, and I too believe that healthy eating needs to taste good to be sustainable. So I am super excited for his thoughts and tips. Let me jump in here for a second because I have to tell you about a product I am so excited about. ZBiotics Sugar to Fiber Probiotic. So you guys have heard me talk about ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic before, and they have been teasing me that they had like another new product in the wings, and they did not disappoint. This is a genetically engineered probiotic developed by actual PhD microbiologists that has one unique job. It turns some of the sugars you consume into fiber. It's like a Rumpelstiltskin situation, but instead of turning straw into gold, it's turning sugar into fiber, which is basically dietitian's gold anyway. And yes, I know it sounds like magic, so let me explain how it works. This probiotic produces an enzyme called Levin sucrase to break down sugar into its molecular building blocks, and then it restacks those blocks together in the fiber leaven. The result is simply a better environment for the probiotics in your gut to flourish and form a healthier, happier microbiome. So if you want to try ZBiotics Sugar to Fiber or their pre-alcohol probiotic, go to zbiotics.com/abbysharp or scan the QR code on screen. And you can use my promo code AbbeySharp at checkout to get 15% off of your first order. And if you are unsatisfied for any reason, ZBiotics offers a 100% money back guarantee. So thank you so much, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode. Let's dive in.
Age of short form videos and tweets, I've been feeling that it's done a huge disservice when it comes to a lot of health and fitness content. I mean, you can pick any food and almost guarantee that someone has made a video telling you not to eat it. People with completely different diets and lifestyles can all be in very good health.
I love this man, and not just because he's a ginger. This is exactly what I am saying every damn day. Nutrition is all about personalization, nuance, and context. And we get none of those things in a 20-second rant from some unqualified charlatan standing in the grocery aisle about seed oils. But I digress. Let's take a look at what Ethan describes as the fundamentals of healthy eating based on the book Understanding Healthy Eating.
First, there are 6 principles of your diet that affect health in order of total effect. And they use these principles to create a healthy eating pyramid that's a great mental model.
Okay, I admittedly haven't read the book that he pulled this from, but I would obviously love to see the author's references for how they came up with these exact numbers. But I will say, if the idea of health is strictly about like a healthy weight, which for the record, I vehemently disagree with, then yeah, for sure, this general pyramid structure makes sense. Calories are always going to be king, especially when it comes to weight management, because as he pointed out, you can technically maintain a healthy weight or even lose weight eating only Twinkies as long as you are not eating more calories than you burn in a day. As for weight management being kind of like the foundation of good health, it's a little bit more complicated. Of course, we do know that maintaining a healthy weight is an important risk reduction strategy for chronic disease, since obesity is associated with type 2 diabetes, heart disease, cancers, etc. However, about 30% of folks with obesity are considered metabolically healthy, and about half of them will be able to stay metabolically healthy as they age. And while quality of diet is of course important, fitness actually plays the most significant role in this discrepancy. So for a solid chunk of the population, calorie balance might not actually be more than half of what determines good health. And even if we ignore the kind of fit and fat population, or if we assume that this author is focusing on weight being the crux of health, which again, I don't love, a pyramid model that kind of insinuates building on a foundation doesn't actually make a whole lot of sense when food composition and macros almost always influence calorie balance. Like, You can't tease these things apart into distinct categories. This is basically the premise of my trademarked framework, the hunger crushing combo. Straight up high sugar carbs, or what I call naked carbs, are not very satiating. So if you were to eat like 400 calories worth of Twinkies, which is actually just less than 3 Twinkies by the way, you'd probably be hungry again like an hour later. Your blood sugar may also experience a transient spike and drop, which can then stimulate kind of like an urgent drive to eat.
Where's the pizza?
Unless you're somehow able to ignore those body sensations, you'll likely then consume another meal or snack, potentially putting you into a calorie surplus. Alternatively, had you consumed a 400 calorie salad packed with fiber, protein, and healthy fats, you would likely be full for a few solid hours, which then helps you effortlessly maintain calorie balance without those distracting feelings of nonstop hunger. So the what of our diet can kind of modulate the effort required to maintain a healthy body weight, which in turn can help to reduce the risk of chronic disease.
However, I would argue that most people can massively change their life through non-optimal diets and non-optimal fitness regimens that can be stuck to over several decades.
100%. Diet and wellness culture really tries to distract us from like the big picture tenets of health, like exercise, sleep, stress reduction, balanced eating. And it does it by getting us to obsess over these minute, insignificant details. It gaslights us into believing that it's just this one specific tool or program or hack or supplement or food that is going to change everything in your life. But like, taking creatine or something to build muscle, for example, is going to do shit if you are overworked, you're not sleeping, you're not nourishing your body, and you're not exercising consistently. I know these foundational tools are not like as sexy as take this NLM essential oil and you'll fix the root cause of all that ails you, but you'll get infinitely greater bang for your buck when those pieces are in place first. But okay, let's take a look at some of his tips.
If you're in the rut of constantly going out to restaurants, grabbing takeout, or ordering Uber Eats, the first place where I like to start is just pick one of my favorite foods and make it at home. But I would say there are kind of 3 different levels to this that you'll need to figure out which works best. Level 1 is restaurant recreation, level 2 is macro-conscious recreation, and level 3 is a very low-calorie alternative.
Okay, I love how Ethan has broken down the 3 approaches and their respective pros and cons. And he's right. If you were to like copy a restaurant dish at home verbatim, you would likely still create a calorie deficit simply by using more mindful amounts of cooking oil and probably just serving yourself a more appropriate serving size. And this alone proves that you don't need to deprive yourself of foods that you love in order to lose weight. Now in level 2, which is what he says he does most often, he tweaks a few ingredients that he feels won't kind of compromise his enjoyment of the meal. So in the case of his fried rice, for example, he uses cooking spray instead of like a big glug of oil, shrimp over chicken thigh, and he cooks his rice with more water to yield kind of fluffier, more voluminous rice. And this is kind of an interesting hack that I don't think I've ever thought of. That actually makes a lot of scientific sense. Research suggests that the total weight of food that we eat every day to feel full is generally consistent day to day. So if you always fill your dinner plate to the brim, you are not going to feel full if you force yourself to just fill half of that, even if the calories were the same. So if our meal volume stays consistent and weight loss is the goal, manipulating the calorie density of what's on our plate is really key, which is exactly what Ethan did with his rice. And then there's like the super low-cal hacks that we see floating around on TikTok. And I don't know, if you like Oreo cookies made out of like dried beef or bread made out of just egg whites, then you do you. But as a dietitian, I feel like this is often where the sustainability line gets crossed, and in some extreme cases, when we start to teeter into disorder territory. But let's take a look at some of his other hacks.
Lean proteins are high in protein, low in calories, and will keep you full for a long time. But they can be pretty bland and boring if you don't know how to prepare them. This is why learning how to season lean proteins is so important, because you can completely transform boring lean proteins into countless different dishes.
Okay, I am screenshotting this right now because I think we can all benefit from some more kind of chicken breast inspo. Am I right? And he is right, because protein is king of the satiety hierarchy, and something like chicken breasts offers some of the best protein bang for our caloric buck, with just 4 calories per gram of protein compared to something like steak, which has 7.5 calories for every gram of protein. So when choosing protein for weight loss specifically, it does make sense to try to choose leaner options that offer a high protein to calorie ratio more often.
Now, we learned from earlier, carbs, fats, and proteins, none of them are the enemy here. I'm looking at controlling carbs as a product of calorie balance. So instead of just eating a bunch of pasta, I'll substitute some of the pasta with lean proteins and different vegetables.
Yes! So this is exactly the premise behind my hunger crushing combo. You don't need to get rid of naked carbs like white pasta, but rather, if we dress them up with fiber, protein, and healthy fats, it's going to yield a much more satiating meal and also help to edge out some of the less satiating components.
The second way I control my carbs is using a lower calorie carbohydrate alternative.
Makes sense. And I think the examples that he gave are very much in that kind of level 2 realm that he mentioned before, in that like corn tortillas are at least as enjoyable as flour tortillas, if not, in my opinion, way more so. And there are so many great nutrient-dense options on the market right now that don't at all feel like an act of denial. And I'm gonna add another kind of like carb controlling hack, even though I don't love that term, but here's another one thrown into the hat. And that is to simply choose more higher fiber carbs more often. So for example, I love using chickpea pasta for pasta nights because you get 50% more protein and like 3 times the fiber than just basic wheat. And I also genuinely prefer like a high fiber, lower sugar cereal like All Bran over something like Lucky Charms in the morning. But there are just so many ways to make mindful carb choices in your diet without denial.
And fourth, having a variety of low-calorie condiment and garnishes in the fridge is one of the easiest ways to start making healthy food taste so much better.
1000%. I actually talk about this in one of my videos on healthy weight loss tips, but condiments, and really anything that makes your meals more flavorful and interesting to look at, are so key to sticking to your healthy eating goals. No one wants to live the rest of their life on like a bodybuilder prep diet, eating boiled chicken breast, steamed broccoli, and plain quinoa. Now, if weight loss is your goal, then yes, focusing on some of the lower calorie condiments that he mentioned can be really helpful so that the condiments don't just kind of like eat into your calorie deficit. But to everyone else just looking to eat more nutritious foods, or who are just kind of getting started trying to cook and eat homemade meals, I say do whatever you can to make those naturally nourishing foods enjoyable for you. And this is key for picky kids, but also for adults who just are not really used to eating a lot of whole nutritious foods. I always say that healthy food is only healthy if you are actually going to eat it. And if you are boiling cauliflower in the name of health only for your family to like push it around their plate, you would be way better off putting some cheese on it.
How much cheese is too much cheese?
Because cauliflower is only good for you if you eat it. Ditto for like salmon, which is of course an amazing source of heart-healthy omega-3 fats that I want people to get more of. But if you're just like learning to like fish, don't torture yourself with like a plain salmon fillet. Brush that bad boy with sweet and sticky teriyaki sauce and give that fish a fighting chance of actually being consumed. Meet yourself where you are on your health journey, not some fitness influencer who is already used to like living off egg whites and sadness. Once you discover, hey, you know what? Brussels sprouts cooked in bacon fat tastes amazing, then over time, you'll be more likely to appreciate the inherent delicious flavor in those foods and then experiment with more nutritious food preparations and flavorings. Baby steps, you know?
Figuring out routines and protocols you can actually stick to long term is probably what's going to make the biggest difference. Meal prepping a bunch of food never worked for me, but that doesn't mean it could be exactly what someone else needs, which is why you need to evaluate and integrate these concepts to fit your needs.
Yes, not only are our nutritional needs so different, but our eating styles, cooking skills, time capacity, and like all the things are going to determine which hacks may actually be helpful for you. And in case you missed it, I have 2 videos on weight loss hack ideas to kind of get some inspiration from. And obviously some are gonna work for one, others are gonna work for others. Like, no different than Ethan, I also hate meal prepping in the traditional sense of like making a week's worth of the same meal. But things that have helped me are like making meal building blocks, like making a big batch of rice or chopping up the vegetables or grilling a bunch of chicken breasts all in one so I can use them in different ways throughout the week. Another quick little hack that I like to do when packing the kids' lunch the night before is I will make myself a snack pack that I can kind of take upstairs to my office in case I tend to get like hyperfixated on work or stuck on calls. I've got everything set. But I would love to hear the hacks that have helped you. And if you want, I can do a whole other video on those. But I loved Ethan's take, and I really cannot wait to do a deep dive on Ethan's videos to get some more meal inspiration for those days that I am ultimately in a rut, which is most days. And on that note, I'm signing off. A big reminder to check out my new podcast, Bite Back with Abbey Sharp, for loads of juicy nutrition content. And I'll see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye!